Welcome to Jason the Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And I thought I'd do a live stream. I really wanted to talk more about the Oscar ceremony. I did get around to watching it the other day. So I did watch the whole ceremony. Hey, there's my sister. Hey, Abby. Hope you're doing well. So I did watch the whole ceremony. So I kind of got, I know kind of what happened there and not just who won and all that. And I kind of wanted to talk about the ceremony and the who won and what my thoughts were on everything that happened. Basically, as you know, I'm a big Oscar guy. I'm big on Oscar history. I know a lot about the Oscars. I've kind of studied it quite a bit, and I'm a fan of the Oscars in the sense that I like that it's the big. I'm a big movie guy, so I love this whole big pageantry, celebrating movies. I think the Oscars, the whole point is we're supposed to celebrate the best movies that came out that year. And that's what it is. And so I love that. I love celebrating movies. I love it being a time capsule of you watch the Oscars and you go, okay, this is what they thought were the good movies. Now, who are they? The Academy. And who are the Academy? I don't know. They're a bunch of people that work in the movie business. So you got a group of people that work in the movie business that are giving their opinions on what they thought were the best movies. Now, do they nominate the best movies? Heck no. They nominate some of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. It's been that way for the last like 10 years. I feel like it's been a while since we've had a good group of nominated movies for Best Picture, let's say, and so forth. Yeah, they definitely are way off on what the audience likes and what I don't know, these Hollywood elitists like, these very liberal woke elitist people. They love these really woke movies that the regular people like me don't like and despise. And it sucks because it used to be in the 90s. I was just going over like the Oscar trivia the other day. I mean, you had Forrest Gump and Braveheart winning back-to-back Oscars, and you had Schindler's List before that, which you can still count in there, I guess. Um, and then 97 is the Titanic. I mean, these were the biggest box office movies of the year. These were movies that people really loved, and they won the Oscars for Best Picture and a bunch of other stuff. And people loved watching the Oscars because they love watching their favorite movies get nominated, win Oscars, and get to see the people making them make speeches and all that. And today, it used to get, I think, I saw something back, I think in the 90s, you're getting, 40 some million people watching the Oscars. Today, you're getting about 18 million people. So it's dropped less than 50 or more than 50% of the audience has dropped, let's say, in the last 30 years, since I've been watching the Oscars. And it really sucks. I hate that the Oscars do this. I'm still a fan of watching the Oscars just because, again, I'm a historian, I guess, in a sense, and I love Oscar history. It's a piece of movie history. So I still watch the Oscars and still kind of pay attention to what's winning and where, and you kind of see where the trends are going, what the Academy, the quote unquote Academy, likes anyway that year. So this is not a good representation of what the best movies are. It's just the opinion of these people that are a part of the Academy, are members of the Academy. I kind of wish there was another award show out there that could do a award show where they actually nominate movies that people like. That would be fun to watch. I don't know that we have that, but if they could have something, and it would get, I bet if they could do something where they actually nominate movies that people like, it would do way better ratings than the Oscars. But anyway, sorry, that's my rant on the Oscars. But in saying that, so the movies they nominated, horrible, just absolutely horrible. I saw 9 of the Best Picture winners, and I only liked one movie, and that was A Complete Unknown. The other 8 did not enjoy and would not watch again, and that's the way it is. But the Oscar ceremony itself, it was actually a really good ceremony. It's actually been one of the best ceremonies I've seen in a long time. I got Scott here. Hey, Scott. Good. How are you doing? Thanks for tuning in. Talking about the Oscar ceremony. Yeah, the Oscar ceremony itself was actually pretty enjoyable. And when I say the Oscar ceremony, I mean the ceremony itself. It's like we're awarding movies, the best movies and the best performers of the year, but it's also a piece of entertainment for the audience to watch. So you have comedy, you have musical numbers. It's a piece of entertainment. So if I'm looking at the Oscars as a piece of TV entertainment for an audience to watch, I thought overall it was actually pretty good. And a lot of that is thanks to Conan O'Brien, who is one of the best hosts we've had in such a long time. I was so happy. I've been wanting Conan to host the Oscars for the last 25 years at least, maybe even longer, maybe the last 30 years. Whenever he started doing the Conan O'Brien show, Late Night with Conan, I've always thought he would be the greatest host we've ever had. He hosted the Emmys a couple times and was amazing, one of the best Emmy hosts I've ever seen. And I'm a big fan of Conan O'Brien's show. I've been a big fan, like I said, the last like almost 30 years probably. I've been watching Conan on some kind of talk show. I think he's the best talk show host we ever had. So, anyways, he's just a naturally funny guy. I knew he would just absolutely kill it, and I'm always surprised why have they not talked to, or either they've asked him and he said no. It's possible that they asked him, he probably just was too busy, and then now he doesn't really have a talk show anymore. So now he's like, okay, I'm not busy anymore. I don't have a talk show. I can do the Oscars anyways. And he did a great job. He totally nailed it. Like I said, the best host we've had in the last probably decade, at least. For me, I grew up on Billy Crystal. I think it's probably the best host we ever had. Loved Billy Crystal in the early 90s. And then we had like Steve Martin in the early 2000s, did a couple shows, were great. Jon Stewart was great. Those are some of the best ones I remember. You know, Ellen DeGeneres did a pretty good job. We've had a couple here and there, like Hugh Jackman did a one good job on his one that he did. And then we had a couple terrible hosts during that time as well. In the last, like I said, last several years, it's been horrible because we had Jimmy Kimmel's host. I think he's hosted 4 or 5 times. I can't remember in the last 10 years or whatever. I don't know why they keep asking him, and maybe it's because nobody else says yes, and Jimmy Kimmel always says yes. And maybe because it's ABC and he hosts a show on ABC, but I don't know. Jimmy Kimmel's like the worst host I've ever seen. He is so. I don't watch his show, and anytime I see him, he's just a very liberal person who just talks about liberal issues and doesn't even try to be funny. And when he does try to be funny, he's not funny. He's like the most unfunny person I've ever seen that has been successful. And he's hosted the show so many times, and every time he's hosted, it's been horrible. His monologues is not funny at all. I don't laugh one bit. And I can't believe they keep asking him back. And I can't believe anybody has thought he was that good of a host. I just can't imagine. I've never heard anybody say, "Oh man, Jimmy Kimmel, what a good host." Love that he keeps coming back. But they keep having to come back. And then the one year they didn't have him come back, they had these 3 actresses host, and it was a horrible one. It's the most memorable Oscars because that's the one where Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, and that's like the most memorable moments we've ever had in Oscar history. But those 3 hosts were not that great either. Amy Schumer was like okay at times. She was the only one that I thought that was kind of funny. She should have just hosted herself. And then we had like 2 years where we didn't even have a host. That was the year when they were going to get Kevin Hart, which I think Kevin Hart would have been a great host. He's a guy I've always thought would be a good host for the Oscars. And then they tried to cancel him because of a tweet in the past, and he wouldn't apologize for it. So then they decided not to have a host that year, which was so weird because I think a good host is very success. A good host is very important to having a good Oscar ceremony. It is maybe the most important thing you can do is getting a good host. And the fact that they could have Kevin Hart, but then they tried to cancel him, it was so stupid. And then they didn't have a host, and I thought that was terrible. It was just not the same without a host. And then they decided to do it the next year for some reason, said, hey, let's not have a host again. And I hated it. And I'm so glad they went back to doing hosts, even though they have a terrible host in Jimmy Kimmel. It's like, I'd rather have some kind of host because I think that's a big part of the Oscar ceremony, what makes it such a fun thing to watch. Abby says, I think they asked him because he's on ABC. Yeah, that's probably why, because he's on ABC. So it's like he's in house, kind of higher. But Conan was so good. He had the substance joke at the beginning. It was pretty funny where he's coming out of Demi Moore. If you haven't seen that movie, that's a crazy part of the movie where Margaret Qualley comes out of the back of Demi Moore at the kind of towards the beginning of the movie. So that was, that's a bit that I feel like we've had a lot of substance bits on other award shows. That's definitely a fun movie to do a bit about. And he did a pretty good one where he's coming out and then he forgot his shoe and he had to go back in and grab his shoe. I thought it was pretty funny. Anyways, I think he could have done more though. I wish he would have done more. I love when they go into different movies like that and do a bit. I would love to see more, but he did only one movie, and that was Substance. But then he came out, of course, did his monologue. and he had some great jokes. If I'm a big again, I don't know if anybody's not a fan of his. I can't believe. I think most people are a fan of Conan's. I love his style of comedy. Um, there's almost too many jokes to even talk about. The Wicked joke about Wicked is the movie that after you watch the Wizard of Oz and you think, huh, I wonder what it's like for the minor characters to go to college. Well, now that's a movie. That was hilarious because that's totally breaks down Wicked and why I don't like Wicked. It's like, who cares about these minor characters going to college? It doesn't make sense to me. Um, yeah, and he definitely made fun of Timothée Chalamet quite a bit, and Timothée Chalamet took it in pretty good stride. I thought that was pretty good. The headshot picture and Timothée Chalamet's headshot was him in the womb because he's so young. It's making fun of how young he is, and he even said he had kind of this. Timothée Chalamet is maybe the worst dresser I've ever seen, but he wore this like very, I don't know, bright colored kind of tux, and he said, "Well, you won't get hit on your way home on your bike or something like that." That was pretty funny. A lot of good stuff on Timothée Chalamet. The bit about if you go too long instead of plenty off, we're going to have John Lithgow. We're going to show a picture of John Lithgow looking disappointed, and then they went to John Lithgow, and Lithgow is such a good actor. He did such a good job. He did look very disappointed. That was a funny bit. And then he went back to him again, and he went back to his like disappointed face. That was pretty funny. I thought that was a good bit. And even Kieran Culkin called it out when he won his Oscar, and he was like, "Oh, I don't mean to go too long, and I don't want to see Lithgow's disappointed face." And so that was a good callback to that. Yeah, like I said, there's just so many good jokes. I can't tell them all. I just thought it was a very good, solid monologue, which I laughed quite a bit. The joke that made me laugh the most, though, wasn't even really about an Oscar movie, but he said one of my favorite movies that didn't get one of my favorite movies didn't get nominated, and that was Baby Girl, which was a Nicole Kidman movie with Antonio Banderas, and he said Baby Girl is a movie where Antonio Banderas can't sexually satisfy his wife, and Antonio Banderas, and I'm giving a PG version of what he said there. He said Antonio Banderas said this was the most challenging role in his life. That got me the biggest laugh. I laughed so loud. That was such a good joke. That didn't make fun of anybody. Actually, was really kind of saying how good looking and how women love Antonio Banderas, and all that. But anyways, overall, great monologue. Loved it. One of the best monologues I've seen in a long time. They 100% need to ask Conan to come back next year, right now. Like, if they haven't yet, this very day, they need to say, Conan, come back for next year's Oscar. You need to host a couple more, I think. At least, I think John Mulaney should probably host some. If they can get John Mulaney, I think he'd be a good host. But Conan definitely should be hosting right now. He is so funny. And he still is on his game, even though he's like in his upper 50s. He's still one of the funniest guys ever. And he just natural. It's just natural because he's hosted a late night talk show forever. He's just natural on stage and telling jokes because he tells monologues, all the time. He's had such a history of doing good monologues that it just fits. The Oscars ceremony fits for Conan. Anyway, so yeah, just say overall, was really pleased with that. As far as going through, I like that Conan, after a commercial break, usually Conan would come out and he'd tell a joke, and the joke would be pretty funny, and he might do a little bit, and then he'd go on with the show. So his bits didn't take too long, but were funny. He just came out and I love that because I don't like the idea of the host telling the monologue and then sometimes they disappear for a lot of the ceremony. And I love that the host is in there telling jokes, keeping it. That's all I love the comedy of making fun. What's fun about the Oscars is making fun of the people. You're kind of roasting the people that get nominated for Oscars and seeing them react to it. That's fun. It's fun if they're in good spirits and they're laughing at themselves. It's a lot of fun to see them get roasted, And that's kind of the thing. We're celebrating the year of movies and we're going to roast everybody. That's the joy of watching the Oscars to me. So I thought he did a good job coming in. Like he brought out the LA firefighters, I think, and then he had them do some of his jokes. I thought that was pretty funny. They had to actually get some pretty good jokes there as well. but yeah, it's just everything he came in with. I thought did just a great job, just continuing to be funny and implementing himself without taking too much time. I thought he did just absolutely fantastic job. Um, and when I go through the categories, I try to remember some of the other funny bits that kind of happened throughout. I think there's some good funny stuff and some funny presenters. I love when you get some comedy people and they do something funny. That definitely makes it for a memorable Oscars as well. And I wouldn't say this was like the funniest or the most memorable Oscars, but I think they overall did a very good job. My sister was talking about another funny joke. A complete unknown, a real pain, Nosferatu, and he's naming these movies, and they're cheering because those are movies nominated for Oscars. And he says, "Those are just some of the names that were I was called on the red carpet." That was one of the funniest jokes. I thought that was absolutely fantastic, especially the complete unknown. Oh my gosh, that's such a funny idea. Someone call him the complete unknown. He's so good at self-deprecating humor. That's what I love about Conan. He's not afraid of making fun of himself. Um, he also did a funny bit with Adam Sandler, and he said like, and I'm glad we're all like really well dressed, for this occasion. And then he goes, Adam, what are you doing? And goes Adam. Adam Sandler's wearing the basketball shorts and the hoodie that he likes to wear a lot. And he's like, what? And he's doing his Adam Sandler bit. And they're going back and forth. And then he's like, okay, I'm leaving. And but after the ceremony, we're gonna do 5-on-5 basketball because he loves playing basketball. And before he leaves, he goes to Timothy Chalamet and says, Chalamet, in his Adam Sandler voice. That was kind of a callback to the Golden Globes when Nikki Glazer, the host of that show, said Timothy Chalamet sounds like something Adam Sandler would say. So that was a funny callback. If you watch the Golden Globes, great callback. Absolutely hilarious. Um, they did they did. Oh, I didn't even mention they opened with Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. I can never say her name right. I have her name here somewhere. Let's see, Cynthia Erivo, right? Yeah, Cynthia Erivo. They had them sing a couple songs from Wizard of Oz / Wicked / maybe something else. And that was actually really good. That was actually because they didn't do any of the song numbers, which I like when they do the songs. I actually kind of enjoy that, hearing them sing the songs live. I think it's actually one of my favorite things. I hate that they don't do it, but except this year there wasn't really a lot of good songs, so it didn't matter. But I did like that they opened the show with some numbers from Wicked and Wizard of Oz. Ariana Grande, she can sing. I didn't know. I thought she was just some, pretty pop princess, that can't really sing, but she's good looking and she can dance or something. She's just some Disney, part of that machine. And she sang Over the Rainbow, and she did a good job. I'm like, oh, I totally underestimated Ariana Grande. She can actually sing. That was interesting. But that was a good rendition of that. And then I like they went to Cynthia Erivo. She sang a song. I didn't recognize the song. I didn't know that one. But then they go into Gravity, Defying Gravity, which is the best song, or it was the best song in the Wicked movie, part one, and one of the best songs in that musical. And Cynthia Erivo, man, she is a really good singer. She nailed that song. I mean, when she does that part, at the end, um, and she does that. Oh my gosh. Um, oh, they'll never bring me down. And she hits this incredible note. Oh my gosh. I had chills. That was such good singing. That was a cool way to be in it. I'll say I like that they had that musical number. I like having some kind of music in the show. So that was a good way to do it. Before, I remember one ceremony, they had Queen sing some songs because Bohemian Rhapsody was nominated for Oscars. So I like that. That's a cool idea. Do that and then go into the monologue. Overall, a good beginning of the show. They did do a James Bond uh, singing, dancing number, kind of celebrating the 50 years of Bond or something like that as well. Was it 50 years? It's more than 50 years though, because Bond started in 62, so it's been like 53 years or something like that. But they're doing this whole James Bond thing. I've heard a lot of people criticize and thought it was really terrible. I actually didn't mind it. I like we begin with Margaret Qualley, and oh my gosh, she is so good looking. I mean, in that red dress she was wearing, oh my, Margaret Qualley. And if you've seen The Substance, you see a lot of Margaret Qualley in that movie. You see a lot of her butt. I mean, there are so many shots of Margaret Qualley's butt in that movie. You're like, okay, I get it, director. She has a nice butt. We keep coming back to it over and over again. It was like a little overly done, but yeah, she's really good looking, and she needs to be the next Bond girl. I mean, right now, I want her to be the next Bond girl. She would be so good in that role. But yeah, I like that. Started with that. The dancing numbers, I thought it was good. They did bring out three singers that I didn't know them at all. I'm the old millennial for a reason. I don't know today's music. I think there's some girl named Lisa. I know there's Doja Cat, which I've heard that name before. It's a weird name. Um, and then there's some other girl. I thought they did fine. They did okay, and they sang some good numbers. I like Doja Cat was wearing this really cool diamond. She was singing "Diamonds Are Forever," and she was wearing this diamond dress, which looked like just a bunch of diamond stuff. I thought that was a cool looking dress. I thought, wow, that was a cool design. I heard a lot of people say that they weren't good. I thought they were fine, and I like James Bond music, so I enjoyed the whole thing. But I don't know. I feel like I'm alone on that. I feel like I've heard a lot of people did not like that, anyways. But um, that was the major things I can think of in this ceremony. Now, as far as like, here's the other thing: is I hate when they do a lot of political stuff in the Oscars, which they've done that again. Jimmy Kimmel, he's very liberal. He always talks about liberal stuff I know on his show, the Jimmy Kimmel show, whatever, Live with Jimmy Kimmel. Um, so of course at the Oscars, especially if Trump is president, they're going to do a bunch of political stuff on Trump, or Jimmy Kimmel would have if he was hosting. And I hate that. I hate that they feel like that. And even the three actresses, they did a bunch of junk. And even one year they didn't have a host, but they had this one lady come out and say something very liberal. It's like, I don't need all this liberal junk, your political thoughts. I just want hear you talk about, movies and what the movie that you're in and how great it was and the people and all. I don't want to hear your liberal crap. And this year it was pretty good. I didn't hear a lot of liberal junk, and a lot of that's thanks to Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien has never been very super political on his show, and I really appreciate that about Conan O'Brien. He's never. I can watch Conan because he never offends me. He makes fun of Trump, but it's not all about making fun of Trump. He does other things. People like Jimmy Kimmel and who are the other ones? Stephen Colbert, Seth Meyers. All they do is make fun of Trump, and it's not funny at all. And it's just offensive to conservatives like myself. And then a lot of the people that win, of course, they're all liberal, super liberal people. That's Hollywood. And so they would win, and then they would say something very, very liberal, and you just go, oh my God. I don't remember hearing too much of that. Of course, I didn't hear every single speech, to be honest. I skipped over some of the speeches if I didn't know who they were. The only weird thing I will mention one of the weirdest things was the Honora winning all of these Oscars, won 5 Oscars, and Sean Baker won 4 Oscars. Both him and Mikey Madison, whatever, who won Best Actress, praised the sex worker community and really wanted to lift up the sex worker community. And I was like, oh, this is kind of weird talking about how great the prostitute, they call it sex workers, but the hooker prostitutes, like how great that is. I'm like, no, it's not great. It's terrible. It's not only immorally terrible, paying sex for money and then having sex out of marriage anyways, I think is immoral myself. That's my own viewpoint. But the whole practice is immoral. And it's not good for the prostitutes, sex workers. They are abused terribly by the pimps. And there's lots of just sexual abuse. There's lots of drug abuse. It's not a good life, I don't think. It's not. It seems great on movies and TV. We over glamorize the sex worker community, whatever you want to call it. But I don't think it's that glamorized of a job. And I would rather people not do that job and get a good job and have a healthy life, have a healthy, mentally and physically and all that. And I don't think that's in sex work. That's my opinion on the issue. Um, it's funny because I remember not that long ago, back 2011, whenever Les Miserables was out, and Anne Hathaway won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, and her character was forced into she went to prostitution, the character, because she was poor and she needed money for her child, and so she couldn't get a job, so she ended up being a prostitute, and they make it look pretty bad. They make prostitution look really bad in that movie, and it's very depressing and all this. And when Anne Hathaway won her Oscar, she said something about it's a profession. I hope basically it goes away, and that we no longer have to talk about it. And I remember Tom going, and Anne Hathaway's a super liberal person. I'm super, super liberal. And I remember applauding that, going, yes, thank you, Anne Hathaway. I totally agree. We should totally get rid of, prostitution. That would be a great thing. And here we are. We're saying prostitution. Look how great it is. Let's praise these people. And it's like, no, let's not praise these people. Let's try to get them out of it and try to get them into a better life. That's what I say. Anyways, that was definitely one of the weirdest things about the ceremony, all that praising. Anyways, hey, Mike, how you doing? Yep, Mr. Old Millennial. Very old millennial. I'm sounding very old today, I guess. Kids these days, they don't get the values that we used to have. But yeah, I guess I'll get into the categories themselves and talk a little bit about what we're going. I'm not gonna go exactly in order, but I'll try to go from kind of the least ones to the big ones. First one I got down is best visual effects. This one, of course, went to Dune Part 2. Personally, I would have given it to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now I've seen all the movies except for Alien Romulus. I have not seen. I did see Better Man recently, so I have seen that. I've seen Dune. I've seen Wicked. Definitely very good visual effects in all these movies. For the ones I've seen, all deserving, I guess. Dune Part 2, yeah, it's fine. I mean, they have the giant worms, I guess. Maybe that's why they gave it to him. King of the Planet of the Apes, though, was some of the best visual effects I've ever seen, and I've always loved visual effects, the CGI visual effects that look real. And man, those monkeys looked real. And they've done good visual effects for a long time. I mean, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, those had great visual effects, and those should have won Oscars as well. King of the Planet of the Apes, again, just absolutely amazing technology there, making CGI characters look real. I personally would have loved King of the Planet of the Apes to win, but Dune Part 2, it's like, yeah, I guess that's fine. Don't remember much about that besides that. Okay, next I got Best Production Design, which went to Wicked, and I'm totally with that. I've seen everything except for Nosferatu on this category, and I guess that one right as well. I should say I got the visual effects right. I got the production design. I guess that one right. Wicked had some great production design. The Emerald City was absolutely amazing. That whole sequence that they came to Emerald City. Yeah, some really good designs overall. Throughout I know that train that they have is a cool looking train. That was a real design or something. That wasn't CGI. So they did some real stuff and didn't do a bunch of. They did do some CGI like the monkeys, and stuff. But there's some stuff they didn't do, and they designed it. And, yeah, Wicked looked nice. Like I said, I'm not a fan of Wicked, but visually, really good movie. So I'm totally for that one winning, personally. And again, I like the bit Ben Stiller was on. He's supposed to be risen up like in a platform, but it didn't go all the way, so he's only like halfway. And he's giving a speech about production design and how like if it doesn't go well, you can humiliate the person or something. And it was a funny bit. And then it went down, and his head's barely showing as he's trying to do his bit, and then he had to climb out of it to announce. That was a good bit overall. Next one I got was Best Sound. Best Sound went to Dune Part 2. Again, yeah, everybody says that was good sound. I was so bored, I don't remember the sound that well, to be honest. I would say Complete Unknown was the movie I would have given it to because I thought that sounded amazing. The musical numbers with when they're singing on stage, Bob Dylan and like Joan Baez with that, the sound was great. It felt like I was really there at a concert, watching like a concert. I thought it was that good of sound. So I remember watching Clea Unknown and was really noticing the sound was really good. I was like, man, this should be an Oscar winner. The sound is so good. Again, Wicked, not a bad choice. I was so happy the Wild Robot got in here. I love the Wild Robot. It's so cool that I got a Best Sound nomination for a animated movie. Yeah, very cool. But Dune Part Two, I'm fine. I guessed it right. I got that one right as well, and I'm sure the sound was pretty good. Everybody said that there. I wasn't in the theater seeing it, so maybe that's. I did see Clean Unknown in theater. I saw Wicked in theater, so maybe I'm a little more biased because I saw it in the theater where the sound is even better. While Dune Two, I watched on my TV on Max, and I probably didn't notice the sound as much because I heard people say that you're in the theater, your seats were like rumbling. That's how good the sound was. So if that's true, probably a good pick. Again, they probably won that the last time in Dune Part One, so it makes sense. Next, I got Best Editing, and that went to Enora, to Sean Baker. And I did get that one wrong. I thought, because everybody said Conclave, all the experts said Conclave was going to win. I thought Enora, but then I changed it to Conclave, and I should have gone with my original thought, which was Enora. So I thought, well, the Best Picture usually gets Best Editing, so I should have just gone with that. But I changed it to Conclave because all the experts, and I got it wrong. So thank you to all the experts for, convincing me to change my vote on that one. Me personally, I don't know that Enora has anything great. Editing is a weird one. You don't always notice the editing in movies, so that's to me one of the weird Oscar choices. Go, what's best edited? I guess if the movie was good, it was probably well edited, I suppose. So I suppose you go to the best movie in the bunch, and I would say I didn't like any of these movies. I saw all 5 movies in this bunch. I'd say the best movie was Wicked, and I didn't even like that one. But anyways, Enora, it's like whatever. And I don't remember who presented that one, so I can't say. It was funny that Sean Baker came up and he said, thanks, Abby. Thanks for tuning in. I will say it was funny that Sean Baker came up and he said, I really saved this movie in the editing. The director didn't know what he was doing. That was funny because he's also the director, obviously. He directed and edited it and wrote it. And so it's funny that he was, kind of make fun of himself in that way or something. But anyways, but yeah, best editing. Best costume design. And my sister, she's leaving, but she did say this. And I was gonna talk about this because I thought this was actually a really funny bit. The announcing the costumes and Bowen Yang. That was actually one of the funniest bits in the whole ceremony. I really like that. I love when they do stuff like that, and I love when they bring people out and they talk about, they say like really nice things about the nominee. Like they have other people come out that like worked on the movie and say, or know them, and say, and point them out. I think that's a really cool thing. They've done that sometimes. I wish they'd do that more. And they did it. They did it in this show, which is cool. But best costume design, they had an actor and actress that was in the movie come out and talk about that costume designer. I thought that was a really cool idea. It's like, I don't know, they only did it like in a couple of categories, but I thought that was a cool thing to have the person that wore the costume talk about the costume maker and how good they are. Great idea. And it was a funny bit because Bowen Yang, who was in Wicked, he was wearing his outfit from Wicked, and everybody else was just wearing, a dress or whatever. Or and he had John Lithgow, just wearing tux, and Bowen Yang came out wearing his outfit, and he looked at the others and was like, oh, "What's going on? I thought we agreed that we were going to wear our costumes." And they're like, no. And one of them goes, "No, that would have been very cringe." And then Lithgow goes, "Yeah, that I thought so too. I thought it was very cringe." And that was funny hearing an old guy say that was cringe or something like that. That was hilarious. And Bowen Yang being like, you should pay attention to our Snapchat, or whatever. And yeah, it was a great bit. Loved it. It's simple, but really worked. And the look on Bowen Yang's face. And one of the funniest parts is he's like talking to Lithgow, like, I thought we were friends or something like that. And Lithgow goes, we hardly know each other. Where we just met or something like that. That was the whole thing was really funny idea. I love the whole bit and love the whole each member talking about that person. Wicked won best costume. And I guessed that one correctly, of course. And I totally agree. That would have been my pick. I think the costume was really great in that movie. It had a lot of costumes in it. Definitely was a movie that was very heavy on different costumes and very different designs because they're trying to go for this Wizard of Oz design. So they did some weird things there. Overall, yeah, it was great. Again, not a fan of Wicked, but visually great, great stuff. Um, yeah, not much more to say to that. Then I'm going to best makeup and hairstyling. This went to The Substance, and I guessed that one correctly, and I totally agree. The Substance, if you haven't seen that, at the very end, Demi Moore kind of her body, Demi Moore's character, her body is like deteriorating during the movie, and first you see her face, or first you see her hands kind of gets decrepit and like black, and then her face gets in her knees, and you see a lot of her body parts and just going. I don't know how to say it. It's kind of like she's falling apart, this black and decrepit. And then at the very end, she turns into this monster. It looks like a mixture, like I said, a mixture of Gollum and like the Elephant Man. It's this really horrendous looking monster character. And it's Demi Moore in makeup. And yeah, it's absolutely incredible makeup. Yeah, it definitely was something I noticed when I saw that movie. I was like, that is some really good makeup work, some good prosthetic makeup work. Anyway, so yeah, I can't say much more than that was a great choice for makeup and hairstyle. I'm glad that they won that one. Very deserving of it. I can't remember who did makeup and hairstyle. Was that there was I think it might have been that was the June Squibb Scarlett Johansson one, and that was another good bit with June Squibb and Scarlett. And I think, in fact, I think Conan announced them as my two hall passes, which I thought was pretty funny. And ScarJo and June Squibb or something like that. She tried to make a nickname for June Squibb. I think it was like Juicery or something like that. And June Squibb comes out and says, "I'm actually not June Squibb. I'm actually Bill Skarsgård in makeup." That was pretty funny. Anyway, so yeah, that was all. I believe that was the makeup and hairstyle. It was pretty good. Original score. Um, Here we got The Brutalist winning best original score, which I guessed correctly. I thought The Brutalist actually had a really good score. When I was watching that movie, I did notice the score was actually pretty good. Oh, I want to say, oh, Substance. I think I should have been nominated for sound. I was going to say that. I thought the sound in Substance was really airy and just really worked for the tone of the movie. I was going to say that, but anyways, original score, The Brutalist, good winner. I didn't mind that. I don't pay attention to score all the time. I did notice in that movie, The Wild Robot, definitely great score. I wish that could have won. I probably would have given The Wild Robot because I love that movie, and I thought the score was pretty good in that one as well. But Brutalist, not a bad choice. And I did like in this one. I remember when they announced the score, the orchestra that's at the Oscars was playing each score as they went. I thought that was a good touch. I do enjoy hearing. I do like movie scores, so I did enjoy getting here a little bit of each score. All right, let's see what's the next category. I think best original song. And I have to admit, I didn't really know any of these songs that much. I saw Amelia Perez, so when they were like, "Oh, El Mal won for Amelia Perez," and it was a part where they're at a dinner thing, I think, for this, this activist cause, and Zoe Saldana does this funny dance and sings, and chastises the rich people. I mean, it's such a terrible movie and such a terrible moment, and it won. So I was like, it's one of the worst. It's one of the worst songs probably to ever win this category. It's so terrible. But there wasn't a lot of good stuff, unfortunately, because you had two from that. You had a song from Sing Sing. I haven't seen Sing Sing yet, so I can't say if that was a good song or not. And then you had the Diane Warren song as well. I haven't seen that movie, so I don't know much about that song. And then you had the Elton John song, which I have seen that documentary. So that was interesting that I didn't know there was a new song in there either. I didn't remember that song, and I didn't think it was that great overall. So to me, it was probably the worst group of songs I've ever seen get nominated for original song that I can remember. There was nothing memorable there, which is unfortunate. So I love a good Oscar song. I'm big on music, so. And I did like that they showed when they announced each nominee, they went and like you saw the people nominated for the Oscar talk about the writing process or how they made the song. Very cool that we got to see the faces of the people that made the song and talk about it. Really cool idea. I really like that. Definitely do more of that kind of stuff. All right, probably my least favorite category here is best documentary. I haven't seen any of these documentaries, and I like documentaries, but a lot of these documentaries that get nominated for Oscars aren't usually that good. Like the best documentaries, they don't nominate. Like we all know the best documentary should have been Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. That was definitely the biggest documentary I think that came out this year. But there's been Disney Plus has put out a lot of good documentaries as well, and even Netflix had a good one, and Max had a good one. There's all these good documentaries coming out, and none of them get nominated. Of course, the one that won is No Other Land. I guessed it right, and the only reason why I guessed it right because this movie, from what I understand, is a pro-Palestinian movie, anti-Israel movie, and so I know because the Academy is very liberal, so liberal people are very pro-Palestinian and they're anti-Israel, and so I just kind of knew like, oh, this is the most political movie it seems like in this bunch, No Other Land, and it's pro-Palestinian. So I was like, of course they're going to vote for a movie that's pro-Palestinian. So the pro-Palestinian movie wins best documentary, and I should say, shame on you, Oscars, for voting. Shame on you, Oscar voters, for voting for this movie. Shame on the Oscars itself, the Academy. You all should be ashamed of yourselves for giving an Oscar to Palestinians who support terrorism against Israel, against the Jewish people. And just a year ago, Palestinian terrorists went into Israel and killed a bunch of people in Israel for no reason, just because they're terrible people. They're terrible terrorists. And they kidnapped, and we've had this whole war. They started a war because of this and try to get their hostages back. And we're still dealing with this whole hostage situation. It's horrible. Yeah, and I should say, Jews are God's chosen people, and if you're going to go against if you're going to go against God's chosen people, I mean, you're in trouble. You should never go against the Jews and God's chosen people. You're going against God, and it's not going to work out for you. God's going to win every time. So all I can say is everybody that voted for this movie, bad things are going to happen to you for going against God. That's what I'm going to say about that. I think it's horrible. It was all horrible. All right. Let's get past that. I know I got very political there, but I'm sorry. That's just very political issue. I just can't stand. Um, let's go best animated film, which was actually a very early Oscar movie, which is interesting, and one of the biggest surprises of the ceremony, and that is Flow winning best animated movie over The Wild Robot. All the experts said The Wild Robot was going to win. The Wild Robot, I think, won. I can't remember if they won the BAFTA or what they won. Flow did win like the Golden Globe, so I knew the Flow had a chance to win here. And thinking about last year, when Across the Spider-Verse was definitely the best anime movie and 100% should have won, lost to The Boy and the Heron. That was a terrible choice, and I was really mad last year. Now I'm mad this year because Flow won. And again, I haven't seen Flow, so I need to watch that movie before I get too mad. But still, The Wild Robot was my second favorite movie of the year. It was my favorite animated movie of the year. And I was so excited to see Wild Robot win. Because oh my gosh, this whole Oscar ceremony. The worst thing about the Oscars this year was I didn't like any of the winners. Like nobody won that I was like, I really liked that movie. Like the two movies I really liked was The Wild Robot and The Complete Unknown. Those were the two movies I really loved, and neither one won an Oscar. So it's like, man, my two favorite movies didn't win an Oscar. So it's very disappointing. Again, Flow. It's a foreign film, I guess. It's an animated film about a cat, and there's no dialogue. And I just got feelings. I'll watch it, but at some point probably. But maybe I'll be surprised. But I just get the feeling it's going to be like a really boring movie. There's no dialogue. Because I've seen a couple in recent past these independent movies where there's no dialogue and they're boring. I don't like and a lot of these foreign films are pretty boring too. So I don't know. The Wild Robot was so good. It's one of the best anime movies I've ever seen. One of the best, maybe the best DreamWorks movie I've ever seen. But yeah, Wild Robot should have won 100%. And I guess the Academy loves going to independent movies now. I guess it used to be Disney and Pixar won all the Oscars. I guess they're going away from that, from the big studios. Whatever. Um, you know, yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. But anyways, that was animated film. Then we go to now we're getting to the really big. Well, maybe not all of them, but we're getting a couple of big categories here. Best original screenplay went to Anora, which I guessed correctly because I thought Anora's going to win Best Picture. It's probably going to win Best Screenplay. Usually, the Best Picture winner wins Best Screenplay, so it's a pretty good guess overall. If you're, just a tidbit, if you're doing an Oscar competition again next year, like Adam, if you're watching this, go for original screenplay. Go for the Best Picture winner. Um, out of these movies, I mean, the substance, I wouldn't mind. Like, even though I didn't like the movie, I think the story was actually kind of interesting, and super original idea and all that. Anora, I just found annoying. I thought it was such an annoying movie. September 5, I started watching that the other day, and I've seen about 20 minutes of September 5. So far, really good. Like I'm interested in going back and finishing that movie. Hopefully, pretty soon, and doing a review of September 5. But September 5, very interesting movie. If it's as good, the 20 minutes, first 20 minutes have been really good. So if it's still a really good movie overall, I would say September 5 should have been a Best Picture nominee and should have won screenplay. It's because I didn't really like the other movies in this category. Um, if I remember right, Amy Poehler was doing both the original and adapted screenplay, and she did a good job. Amy Poehler, very funny, I think. Uh, did a real good job in this category, so another good job by her. She could host. That's another good host. Amy Poehler and Tina Fey would be great Oscar hosts. Okay, best adapted screenplay went to Conclave, which I guessed correctly. That's been winning all of the screenplay, so that was one of the easiest choices to make. Again, Complete Unknown, I would have given to that. I love that movie. I thought it was a great telling of that story of Bob Dylan. So 100%, I wish Complete Unknown would have won here. It was, oh my gosh, it's so much better than Conclave. Conclave is so boring. It's like you won best screenplay for one of the most boring movies I've ever seen. I don't get it. Anyways, but Conclave won there. Again, I had Nickel Boys and Mila Perez. Those are some of the worst movies of the year. Conclave 2. So these are some bad movies. I haven't seen Sing Sing yet, so I can't say if that's a good screenplay or not. But anyways, so yeah, Conclave winning there. Best international film, again, I can't say much. I did see Emilia Perez, so I saw one international film, and it was one of the worst movies of the year, and I think everybody agrees on that. But I'm still here winning. I haven't seen the movie, so I can't say much about it. But I'm glad it beat Emilia Perez because Emilia Perez is such a bad movie and doesn't deserve any Oscars. And I think a lot of people are happy. When they first had Best International Film, I thought for sure Emilia Perez was going to win because Emilia Perez is nominated for 13 Oscars. I'm like, oh, they love Emilia Perez. Surely that's going to win Best International Film. But then once the main character, Sophia Gaston, whatever, they found out that they had some controversial tweets in the past. Once that whole story came out, and I was like, okay, Emilia Perez is not going to win. That killed anything. I mean, Emilia Perez did come out with 2 Oscars, though, surprisingly. But um, I think it would have won an international film, except for all those bad tweets by that main actor. Really screwed them over, and good for that because they shouldn't have won. So I'm still here. Winning was a good thing. Unless I watch it and I think it's terrible too, then I can't say much. But anyway, so that's best international film. Best cinematography goes to The Brutalist. And I can't remember who was announcing this one. But The Brutalist, I don't remember if it was good cinematography. It's funny. Again, I like a good cinematography. I've seen 3 of these. I haven't seen Maria or Nosferatu. Just by judging by the trailer, Nosferatu probably should have won this category because the trailer looked like it had good cinematography on that one. Emilia Perez definitely should have won. Dune Part 2, possibly, I guess. Again, I don't remember either movie being that good in cinematography. So, I don't know. Dune 2 would have been, I think a lot of people thought that would have won because it's a big epic movie, and you think these big epic movies have, better cinematography. So, Brutalist winning, whatever. It's okay. All right. Now we're definitely getting to the big categories here. Best Director, of course, went to Sean Baker for Nora. And we all knew that from 101 editing. Where once it beat Conclave editing, it was like, oh yeah, this is gonna win the best picture and best director and best screenplay. It was definitely the big winner throughout this ceremony. You can kind of tell this was definitely big fans of Anora. The Academy was this year. Anyways, Sean Baker again goes up there and does a fine job, I guess. I don't know, I guess I'll mention now. Sean Baker won won 4 Oscars, the most Oscars anybody's won in one ceremony. So, man, incredible, Sean Baker. I never heard of Sean Baker. I have no idea who this guy is. Never seen any of his movies until now. I saw one movie, that's Anora. I thought it was a terrible movie. Again, he loves prostitution. The guy is a big advocate for prostitution, so he's not a good person, I think, which shouldn't surprise you. It's Hollywood. They're not good people. But yeah, so I'm like, okay, I don't know how this guy, and Anora, it's just such a weird movie to be the big Oscar winner. It's one of the worst movies ever to win all these Oscars, and I just don't get it. And it just kind of, what's the word? It's just so disappointing that the guy that breaks the record for most Oscars in a ceremony is Sean Baker. Like, who cares about Sean Baker? From what I've heard, all of his movies deal with prostitution. He just has he's got this fascination with prostitution. It's weird. But it's like you think Steven Spielberg, you think some of the great directors and some of the great, filmmakers, Spielberg, you can go back to William Wyler, John Ford, Frank Capra, Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, I don't know, James Cameron, Coen Brothers. You go through all the big directors, big, people that have done stuff like this, that have written movies and directed movies and produced movies and maybe even edited them. And the guy that has records, Sean Baker. And it's like, wow, for someone to break the record, why does that have to be Sean Baker? Like, unless he makes good movies in the future, I guess it's too early to tell. So maybe he can prove himself here, but it's like, man, he does not deserve 4 Oscars. I can tell you that right now for a movie like Nora. And I was looking through the past, and we've had many people that won 3 Oscars in a ceremony. First one I saw was Billy Wilder for The Apartment, won 3 Oscars. Usually it's for directing, writing, and producing. He did all that plus editing, which is pretty impressive. I know like James Cameron did it for Titanic. Peter Jackson won 3 for Return of the King. I think Francis Ford Coppola won for Godfather Part 2. And there's been many others, but those are some big ones that I looked through and saw. Anyways, it's funny that none of them won for best editing though, even though every director I know is involved with editing, because that's part of, the director is responsible for the look of the movie, whatever. And so editing is a very important part of the movie. And so even Peter Jackson is involved with editing, but he hires an editor and the editor gets the Oscar. And I guess Peter Jackson doesn't put his name, because if Peter Jackson could have put his name down for editing, he would have won 4 Oscars for Return of the King. And Peter Jackson's way more deserving than Sean Baker to win 4 Oscars. So I kind of wish he would have got an Oscar for editing as well. But for some reason, a lot of these directors don't get nominated for editing for some reason, even though they're all involved in editing. Anyway, so an interesting tidbit, I think, is that Warren Beatty has been nominated for 4 Oscars twice, which I think is the only person to do that, which I think is kind of interesting. He only won 1 Oscar, though. But for the movie Reds and for the movie Heaven Can Wait, he was nominated for Best Actor, Best Screenplay, Best Director, and Best Picture, which I think is very kind of fascinating. But yeah, it's very rare that you get nominated for 4 Oscars and then win all 4. That's especially film editing, because everybody thought Conclave was going to win that, so no one thought he was going to win 4. So still, we saw. It's kind of cool that we saw history in the making, I guess, on this Oscars. I got Ryan here. Hey, Ryan. I haven't seen Anora. You haven't seen Anora? Wow, I didn't know you didn't see Anora. Surely that is not a worthy film to gain 4 Oscars to be the first to do it. Yeah, I'm glad you agree with me. A lot of people like Anora. I do not like Anora. I thought it was a super annoying movie about prostitution, and like, who cares? All right. And now we're going to get to Best Supporting Actress, which went to Zoe Saldana. And that was a pretty easy guess. She swept all the award shows. I don't think anybody. She's the only person who's won the award, so we knew she was going to win here. It's unfortunate that it's for Emilia Perez, which is a terrible movie. I'm not mad that she won just because I like Zoe Saldana. I never thought of her as like a great actress necessarily, but she's very good in stuff like an Avatar and Gardens of the Galaxy. She was in Pirates of the Caribbean. She's in Star Trek. She's in a lot of big franchises, and she's a really, really good looking actress. I mean, she's definitely one of the best looking actresses out there. Um, and she's does a lot of big projects and does very good in them. So I'm happy for her. I don't mind her getting the Oscar. I think she's been in the business enough and done enough that she deserves an Oscar at this point, or not deserved, but it's she's deserving enough to get one, anyways. I guess you should say. A lot of people thought Ariana Grande early on when the first talking about Best Supporting Actress. Ariana Grande seemed to be the front runner, which I was like, man, I do not want Ariana Grande to win this award. I didn't think she was that good in Wicked. I thought she was okay. She wasn't bad. It's just not. It's just a nothing role to me. And so I'm like, why is everybody going for Ariana Grande? And I always thought of her again. I always think of Ariana Grande as just this part of the Disney machine that she came up in the Disney movies, whatever. And then she also sings because all the Disney girls they sing too, of course. Um, and most of them aren't really anything special. A couple of them, I guess, make it out pretty good. And Ariana Grande is one of them. Has been very successful musically. Never heard, couldn't tell you an Ariana Grande song. Never heard a song from her. Don't care to ever hear a song from her. Anyways, and there's something weird about her. Anyways, I'll just say that. She is good looking, though. I think she's a very good looking actress. Um, Felicity Jones, I thought, did a really good job in The Brutalist. I know Ryan would agree with me in the comments that I think he thought Felicity Jones should have won here. I wouldn't mind Felicity Jones winning here. I thought she did a really good job, even though she was only in half the movie. She was very good in her role. Isabella Rossellini, she was in Conclave for 5 minutes. It's one of the weakest nominees I've ever seen. And I would agree with Ryan here. He says, "Where was Margaret Qualley for this? I don't get it." Yeah, I would have put Margaret Qualley in here instead of Isabella Rossellini because Margaret Qualley was definitely a huge part of that movie. And like I said, you see a lot of Margaret Qualley in that movie. She not even though I heard that her boobs weren't real, they were prosthetic boobs, but still, you saw a lot of her in that movie, and she was get. I thought early on she was going to be maybe even a frontrunner for the role, and I thought she was for sure going to get an Oscar nomination. She got some. I think she maybe got Golden Globe. I don't know if she got SAG. She got some award nominations, but didn't win anything, of course. And then she got shut out for some reason, unfortunately. Um, and then Monica Barbaro, I was so happy she got nominated here for playing Joan Baez in The Complete Unknown. I love The Complete Unknown, so I would love her to win here as well. I would have been very happy. I would because I want Complete Unknown to win all the Oscars. Like I would have given them all 8 Oscars that they got nominated if it was up to me. By far the best movie nominated this Oscar ceremony. So that was really cool that she got in because I was not expecting her to get in as well. Okay, let's go. Best Supporting Actor, which this was actually the very first category I'm getting to here. And of course, Kieran Culkin won Best Supporting Actor. We all knew he was going to win. Again, this was a really easy choice because he swept all the award shows. He won all the awards coming up to this, so you knew that. I don't know what it is. They love this. It's funny. Sometimes I don't know if it's just that somebody gets momentum, and then once they get the momentum, they're starting to win awards. The next award show is like, yeah, I guess we should give to Kieran Culkin. He's been winning all the awards, so I don't know. And it just gets swept up in the momentum of it, and everybody's like, well, he must be the best one because he keeps winning. I don't quite get it because he definitely was not the best actor in this category, and yeah, it definitely didn't deserve an Oscar here. I think it's definitely a weak Oscar win for Karen Culkin here for A Real Pain, which is what 2 Oscars that Real Pain um, got here. Um, and I know Ryan, you're in here. I know you talked about this. I think with Karen, and I totally agree with what people are saying about him. Kieran Culkin plays the same character in everything I see him in, and he was the same character in The Real Pain. And if you saw my review for Real Pain, I really did not like The Real Pain. And a lot of it is because of Kieran Culkin's character. The character he played was so annoying and just made you angry. He was just an obnoxious jerk, and I hated that character so much. And so, to me, it's like if I hate the character, I can't go for you for an Oscar. You know, if the character's written so badly, and that's what I thought about it. And Kieran Culkin played it really good as a jerk, you know, obnoxious jerk that you hate. He's good at that. He's actually that's what he does well. If you've seen uh, the TV show he's in, he does the same character where he's very hateable, and that's what he is here. And yeah, Kieran Culkin just plays himself, and I don't get why he won here. I'm with everybody that says that. Yeah, I definitely don't think he should have won here. But I will say this was my favorite speech of the whole night, and my favorite moment of the whole night was him winning. He is actually very funny, and I've seen him in some interviews. He seems like a down to earth guy in some ways, and he seems very funny just naturally. And I think a lot of the speeches haven't been great coming up to this, but this speech was so good and so funny. And he said some of the funniest things of the whole night. Like he was talking about, he was thanking Jesse Eisenberg. He said, "Jesse Eisenberg, you're a genius, and I would never say that to your face, and I'll never say it again. So soak it up." Oh my god! And that's him just on the flow. Like he doesn't have a speech he's reading from. He's not memorizing anything. He just talking off the cuff. He's just absolutely hilarious. Like I said, he said, you know, oh, I hope this goes doesn't give me that disappointed face. That was a funny callback. Um, and then when he, of course, in the whole last part, where he talks about his wife Jazz didn't uh, didn't think he would win, and so she told him that she would have a fourth baby with him if he won an Oscar. And he said, "I shook her hand. You agreed to it, and I didn't bring it up till now, but you promised." So it was actually a really sweet moment, though. I think I've heard some people didn't like that moment just because they thought it was like eerie or creepy or something like that. But like, no, he loves his wife. Jazz is his wife. I thought it was sweet that he loves his wife so much that he wants to have kids with her. I don't know. I like that. I like the idea of loving your wife and wanting to have kids with your wife. I think it's a great thing. I think it's actually nice and sweet and wholesome. And compare it to all the really horrible people that are in Hollywood, like that's a nice moment to go, I love my wife and I want to have kids with her. I'm like, yes, that's the way we should all think. I love it. But he said, and the way he brought it out was just absolutely hilarious. And then they cut to his wife. What's so funny about the whole thing is that his wife is like going, "You're right, I did say that," and she's laughing at it. So she's actually, you know, she's probably emotional in the moment because her husband just won an Oscar, and so she's emotional, but yet she's laughing and crying at the same time. And she's like, because she's like, "Yes, I did say that," you know, and all this, um, and he goes, "So, wife, ye of little faith." It was very funny. You know, "I love you. I'm sorry this happened again, and let's get cracking on those kids." Hilarious, perfect speech. Definitely the best speech of the night. One of the best speeches I've ever heard. Definitely what you need to do in a speech. Make it memorable. That was a memorable speech. And so, even though I don't think he should have won, I'm glad he won because he gave a great speech. And that's one of the fun things about the Oscars is seeing the actors, especially the actors, are the best part of it. The actor speeches are the best part because it's definitely because we know the actors more than anybody else. We don't know the cinematographer. We don't know the special effects person. We do know the actors because we see them on stage. We know their faces. We've seen them in many things. So we love a good speech from an actor. That's part of the fun of the Oscars, and because it's a very emotional moment for them. It's like they're at the top of their field when they win an Oscar. But it's funny when he said, "Let's get cracking on those kids," and they turn to Jazz, and Jazz goes, "No," like she's like, "I don't want to, not right now." She did promise though, so we'll see if she commits to that promise. But anyways, personally for me, I mean, I probably would have given to Edward Norton or Guy Pearce. Both would have been good choices. I thought Edward Norton was really good. And Complete Unknown, again, I love Complete Unknown, so I would have loved to. I would have probably voted for Edward Norton because I want Complete Unknown to win all the Oscars. But Edward Norton, very good, and he's never won an Oscar, and he's been a very good actor for a long time. Guy Pearce, the same thing. I thought he was really good in The Brutalist. Very deserving of an Oscar there. And again, a guy that's been around for a while and has given really good performances in the past. Yeah, those two I would have liked more than Karen Culkin, I would say. But yeah. So that's Best Supporting Actor. Let's go to Best Actress. Best Actress, definitely the biggest shock of the night, I think, for everybody. I think everybody I've heard kind of agrees. I agree with everybody. We all wanted Demi Moore to win. That was definitely not maybe shock, is, but we're all disappointed that Demi Moore didn't win. Demi Moore deserved to win. She, out of everybody in this, maybe, I don't know, Fernando Torres, I don't know if she's done anything much else, but Demi Moore is the biggest star of this actress group, and she's been in the business for like 40 years or something, and she's never been nominated before, and she gets nominated, and it's like, this seemed like her moment, her comeback moment as an actress who, again, and it's all about, now she's in her 60s, and it's like, actresses that get to that age don't get as many roles, and Demi Moore hasn't been a big star for a while. She was when she was younger, and she was good looking. She's still good looking though. Oh my gosh, she's in her 60s and she looks like that. Of course, she's had a lot of. Obviously, it's Hollywood. They've had a lot of work done on their face and their body parts, and so they always look 10 or 20 years younger than they really are. It's part of being an actress. An actor. You're very vain about your looks because that's part of how you get jobs, I guess. Anyway, so Demi Moore. It's that thing when you get to that age and, you don't get as big as roles as you usually get. And so it was kind of this, could have been this good feel good moment. Demi Moore winning because she's won almost all the awards. The only thing she didn't win was BAFTA. So it was weird. I got this category wrong because I thought, how does Demi Moore not win this category when she's won everything except for BAFTA? And so it's like she's got the momentum. Plus, it's a better story. Her winning is a good story and she's been giving great speeches throughout the whole award season. She's given some really great speeches. And so I'm like, oh man, we're going to get this great feel good moment of, don't give up on your dreams. That's the kind of speeches have been given. I love it. Oh, don't give up on your dreams. You're never too old to accomplish that stuff, whatever. It would have been great and it'd been emotional and we've all been so excited and happy. Instead, they give it to the young girl that takes her clothes off. It's like, do we give it to this old actress? I say old, sorry, Demi. You're in your 60s, but it's like, do we give this veteran actress that's been in the business for 40 years, or do we give it to the 21-year-old who takes her clothes off in the movie? Let's give it to the 21-year-old who takes her. I can't remember how old Mackie Madison. Whatever, she's in her early 20s. She takes her clothes off. Let's give it to her. It's so. Oh my god, so stupid. I hate that she won. It's definitely very maddening that Mikey Madison won. Who I never heard of this lady. This is the first time I've ever seen her or anything. And I didn't think she was that good. I know everybody says she was so good in that movie. I thought her character was horrible. She was so annoying. She screamed most of the time. I was like, that's good acting, just being able to scream and take your clothes off. I mean, give it. She looked good when she took clothes off. I'm not against that necessarily, but that's not enough to win an Oscar just because you're good looking and you can scream really loud. That was her whole character. I don't get it. I'm getting myself worked up. It makes me mad. Demi Moore gave a really great performance in The Substance and definitely should have won. It's a terrible choice there. And it's just one of those things where, man, they loved Nora. They loved Nora so much that it won Best Actress when it should have won. And Mikey Madison she didn't deserve that Oscar, but she was in the right movie at the right time. And she gets it, whatever. That's the way it goes. Instead of giving to the person who's been working for, as long as I've been alive and been giving good performances throughout her life, screw her. We'll give it to the young girl. I hate it. Mikey Madison winning. Her speech was okay. Nothing memorable there. Again, we were robbed of a really good speech from Demi Moore. Demi Moore would have gave the best speech of the night. She would have tore the house down. Everybody would have been crying. It would have been a memorable moment. But instead, we get Mikey Madison. I hate it. Yeah, I don't know what to say, except I would have given it to Demi Moore for sure. She definitely deserved it. I thought she did a great performance. I saw all the performances, actually. And Carla Sofia Gaston, good God. I'm glad that person did not win it. Fernando Torres, I have not seen, so I don't know about her. Cynthia Erivo gave a good performance in Wicked. It wasn't bad. Demi Moore is definitely the obvious choice here. And again, I almost want to say shame on you, Oscars, for doing that. Horrible choice there, in my opinion. That's just me. That's my rant on Best Actress. All right, let's go to Best Actor. Best Actor went to Adrian Brody. And it should be mentioned, Adrian Brody winning his second Oscar. He won his first one for The Pianist almost 25 years ago. So pretty long stint between Oscars, but so cool that he came back, won another Oscar. Adrian Brody's such a good actor. I think I don't mind him winning here because he did give a really good performance in The Brutalist. I will say, uh, very deserving of an Oscar, so no problem there. And I guessed it right. And it was definitely between Adrian Brody and Timothée Chalamet. Timothée Chalamet won the SAG, so there's a slight chance that Timothée Chalamet could come up the winner here, um, but I can't be mad by Adrian Brody. But so cool. Adrian Brody puts him into, I think, from my memory is, I think he's the 10th actor to win at least 2 Oscars for Best Actor. So that's a pretty good elite group. So I mean, Adrian Brody now is an elite group of actors because it's very hard. It's very hard to win 1 Oscar. Winning 2 is just once in a full blue moon you win 2 Oscars. So that's incredible work by Adrian Brody, and it's interesting because he wasn't a big actor when he won it the first time, and he deserved it. The Pianist is such a good performance. He wasn't a known actor then. In fact, he's the youngest actor. He's still today the youngest actor to win Best Actor at age 29 for The Pianist. And Timothée Chalamet could have broken that record, I think, if he would have won here. I'm sure he's younger than that. So Brody not only got 2 Oscars, but also kept his streak going of being the youngest Oscar winner for Best Actor anyway. So, yeah, so in here, I'll give up some Oscar knowledge on top of my mind. The first one to do it was Spencer Tracy in 37-38. He won back-to-back Oscars for Best Actor. Then we had Fredric March do it in the 40s. No, maybe it's 11 now. I'm just now remembering somebody else. I forgot about Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando did it as well in the 50s and then in the 70s. He had a long stint between Oscar wins, but yeah, Marlon Brando did it. Gary Cooper did it in the 50s as well, 40s and 50s period. Then we got like Dustin Hoffman did it. Jack Nicholson did it. Tom Hanks won back-to-back Oscars in the 90s, 93, 94. See if I can remember, but Sean Penn did it. He's one of the more recent ones. Of course, Daniel Day-Lewis has 3. He's the only one with 3 Oscar wins. Makes him the most Oscar-winning actor of all time. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody here. I'm trying to prove my knowledge of Oscars. Might be another person. I'm totally. Oh, Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins was the last one to do it. Won 2 Oscars for Best Actor, and pretty long stint between 91 and then he won in the 2020 or something. I can't remember. 2021, somewhere in there. And then Adrian Brody. So Adrian Brody's the 11th actor to win at least 2 Oscars for Best Actor. So still pretty cool. Now, the big story is Adrian Brody's speech was the longest. I think it's the longest speech in history. It went way too long, I have to admit. And I think a lot of people are saying it's the worst speech in history. It's like Brody was trying to say something significant. He just rambled on a little too much, and we kind of lost what he's trying to say. It was kind of awkward speech because he kept talking, and the whole room was silent. And it's just this weird silent speech where it's like nobody was really reacting to the speech. It's like if he was saying some funny things or saying some very emotional things and people were showing them and they're very emotional, but everybody was just kind of standing there quiet, like, oh my gosh, like how long is this guy going to go? When is this guy going to quit? And again, he was trying to say good stuff about like, racism and, and hate and stuff like that. It just went on too long and he lost whatever message he was trying to give. Very unfortunate. 2 funny things. One funny thing is when he went up, he was walking up, and then he noticed that he had gum in his mouth. And he was like, "Oh, I need to get this gum out of my mouth." But now I'm like all the way up, halfway up the steps. So he takes this gum, throws it to his girlfriend or whatever, and she goes, she runs up, and she can tell she misses it because she's like, "Oh," and she looks back. Whoops, my chair went down. So kind of funny moment where I'm like, I've never seen that before. Guy chuck his gum at his wife, like catch my gum before I go give, you know, one of the most important moments of my life, catch my gum. That was kind of funny. It's like weird and awkward. And then the only funny thing is they're trying to play him off, and then he goes, don't play me off. I've been here before. It's not my first rodeo. That was kind of funny because this is the second time he's won, and he kind of, called that back. So that was kind of funny as well. Still, I'm happy Adrian Brody won here. Though, again, if it was up to me, I actually would have given it to Timothée Chalamet. If it was my vote, Chalamet gave a great performance as Bob Dylan. Like, he became Bob Dylan. It was an incredible transformation. I love actors that do that become that character, and you kind of you forget who they are, and you're like, oh yeah, that's Timothée Chalamet. It looked like Bob Dylan. It sounded like Bob Dylan. Acted like Bob Dylan. It was like I was watching Bob Dylan in the movie. So I should mention Mick Jagger announced one of the categories. I think it was Best Song, maybe. I think Mick Jagger did Best Song, and he came out and he said, I wasn't the first choice. The first choice was Bob Dylan, but he didn't show up at the Oscars. And he said, and so they wanted to get someone younger, so they got me. And Mick Jagger said, I am younger than Bob Dylan, but I mean, they're both in their 80s or something like that. So that was pretty funny by Mick Jagger. All right, Best Picture, last category I'll get to. Of course, as I've been talking about, Anora winning Best Picture. Again, one of the worst Best Picture winners of all time. Don't get why people love that movie, but man, the Academy loved that movie. They gave him 5 Oscars. And this was the weird part of the whole. This has been kind of a weird Oscar season in a sense. Not like when Oppenheimer was. I mean, when Oppenheimer won last year, from the very beginning, I kind of was like, I think Oppenheimer's probably going to win. It just seems like it has all the makings of a Best Picture winner. Barbie was like the big box office movie. Some people thought, oh, maybe Barbie would win. And I can't remember what was the other movie that was kind of competing against Oppenheimer. I forget now. But you kind of knew Oppenheimer was going to win the whole time. And it swept through all the awards, basically, if I remember right. And this one was weird because I remember before the Oscar season started, and I was starting to get into what movies are getting buzz for Oscars. And the movie that people were talking about was Anora. Was definitely the big one where everybody's like, I already heard buzz that Nora is probably the front runner for Best Picture. I remember I had no idea what Nora was about. I didn't know anything about Nora, but I was like, okay, so there's a movie called Nora that seems to be the big movie. And I remember my friend Mike, Did You See That? His channel, Did You See That? I think he saw it first. He's the first person I saw do a review for it. And I remember saying in the comments, like, oh, this is supposed to be like maybe the Best Picture winner. And I remember Mike saying, oh, this should not win Best Picture. So I thought, oh, okay. So I think Mike didn't enjoy the movie that much. So I was like, okay, interesting. I wonder what this movie. And then when I found out what the movie was about, and then I saw it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this shouldn't win Best Picture. It's about this hooker, stripper lady who marries a rich guy, and then the family tries to get annulled, and they do get annulled at the end, and she's back to being a hooker stripper. It's like, nothing happened interesting in that movie or worthwhile to be a Best Picture. It's a weird choice. Anyways, and so I was like, hopefully not. This is not the Best Picture winner. Hopefully something better comes out, for God's sakes. And then like when Wicked came out, and it's like Wicked was so huge and people loved Wicked. Part of me was like, man, I would rather see Wicked win here. Or Dune Part 2. People loved Dune Part 2. That did very well in the box office, and a lot of people wanted to see that win. So I was like, could Wicked or Dune Part 2 get in there? But the only movie that kind of really shifted, The Brutalist looked interesting because I was like, again, I didn't really know what The Brutalist was about, but I kept hearing Adrien Brody was going to probably win Best Actor. And seeing that it was like a 3.5-hour movie, so I'm like, okay, this looks like a big epic movie at least. I'd rather see a big epic movie win than some small independent movie like Anora win, personally. So I was like, okay, I'd rather see Brutalist win here probably just because it felt like it's a big epic kind of movie with really good acting and kind of an interesting story, That's before I even saw the movie, but so part of me was like, gosh, I really hope the Brutalist maybe wins here and not Anora. And when we got to the Golden Globes, it felt like Anora, again, I said Anora was like kind of and all this. And then The Brutalist won one of them. Emilia Perez won the other one, won like Best Comedy Musical. But The Brutalist won Best Drama. And when The Brutalist won Best Drama, the Golden Globes, and won Best Actor, and maybe won Best Director, I can't remember. If it felt like, okay, good. Brutalist now has momentum going on. And I thought once Brutalist won the Golden Globe, at that point I thought Brutalist is going to win Best Picture. I was like, Nora was just this flash in the pan thing that people liked at the beginning, but now the award show is so weird. It's all about momentum sometimes, and sometimes different movies will get momentum late in the stage and then ride it on to win. When there's another movie that everybody thinks should have won, this other movie will win. That happens a lot. Anyway, so the Brutalist, I thought, okay, Brutalist is going to win. And then I think it might have won, I'm forgetting everything, but it might have won like Critics' Choice. I can't remember. But it just felt like it was getting some momentum going. Like, okay, good. This, even though I hadn't seen it, I was like, this seems like a better movie than Nora. And it is. I think, I'm wrong. I put Nora ahead of this because this movie was just so long and boring at times. And I hated the ending of this as well. So I think I did give the Nora because the Nora was a shorter movie. So I can't say Brutalist was a better movie necessarily, but part of me was wanting to see that win. What I think shifted was then this whole controversy came out. I don't know, maybe after the Critics' Choice or after the Golden Globes, that Brutalist used AI in their movie, and they used AI to help with the language, the accent of Adrien Brody's character, I think, because he was speaking in he was from Hungary, so he's speaking in the Hungarian language, and his accent wasn't quite right, or his pronunciation of the words weren't quite right. So they used some AI to help when he talks. Some AI helped with the soundings of the words or something like that. Anyways, that was a bit controversial because most people don't want AI at all in movies. That's a very controversial thing, I guess you can say, because it's taken away from the actors. And then again, Adrien Brody won Best Actor though, so it didn't hurt his performance. I guess I thought he could maybe lose because of that controversy, but I definitely thought, oh my gosh, after that happened, I thought they're not. Bruce isn't going to win Best Picture because there's just too much scandal now around the idea that they use AI, and I don't think people are going to want to vote for it because of that. I don't know if that was the reason, but that was my thinking at the time. I was like, so I thought at the time it was like it went from Nora to Brutalist, and then when that happened, it went back to Nora. Unfortunately, I thought Conclave could have maybe taken over because Conclave was still doing very well, and definitely was probably the third best movie. I mean, as far as voting, like I said, because a lot of people thought it was going to win like film editing, it won adapted screenplay, and so people thought it could win film editing, it could win some other stuff, and could maybe surprise everybody win Best Picture. It did win, like, did it win the SAG Best Ensemble or something like that? So Conclave did win some big awards. I think it won SAG and it won, I don't know if it was BAFTA or it won something else. So it had a little momentum going where it's like, oh, Conclave, can Conclave get in here? I thought it was definitely a dark horse, but at the moment I thought it was between The Brutalist and Anora were kind of the two big movies that were fighting for Best Picture. But then again, when Anora really took over, I think it was BAFTA or something like that. BAFTA was crazy if I remember right, because BAFTA was like Demi Moore was winning all of the Oscars, I mean all of the awards, and then Mikey Madsen shocked or surprised won the BAFTA. So I was like, oh, that hurt Demi Moore's momentum. And then it won, like, I think it did win Best Director for Sean Baker. I think somebody else won Best Director. I'm forgetting now what happened there. It was somebody. It was like Wicked. I think Wicked won like Best Director. It was like no one was expecting Wicked to win Best Director because he wasn't even nominated for an Oscar. So I was like, wow, okay, this is weird. And so everybody was like, who's going to win? And then Nora won something, and it was like, okay, is Nora now the front runner? It was very weird. But then what really solidified everything was Nora ended up winning the DGA, which is Directors Guild of America, and the PGA, the Producers Guild of America. So it won two big guilds, the director, Sean Baker, and one producer. Once it won those two, everybody was like, okay, Nora's going to win. That's really when everybody was like, okay, all the experts are like, Nora's going to win this. And I kind of went with that. So I don't know, part of me was really going for The Brutalist. But then when that happened, I was like, okay, Nora seems to be the front runner. I wasn't 100% sure, but I thought again, it was like kind of almost like a last second pick for me. I was like, the Brutalist could win here, but now Nora now seems to have the momentum. And so I picked the Nora, and I was right. Not only was I right, man, that movie won 5 Oscars. So it's a bit of a surprise. I'm kind of surprised that Oscars love Nora so much and gave it 5 Oscars. I didn't think it deserved that many. Again, I didn't think it was that good of a movie. Brutalist not that good movie either. Obviously, A Complete Unknown to me should have won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Supporting Actor. Should have won all those. It was definitely the best movie here. Um, yeah, I don't know what to say except for that, and it's fine. Whatever. We all knew it's going to win, and it ended up winning. A weird choice for Best Picture, in my opinion. But anyway, so those are all the categories and my thoughts on all of them. Thank you to everybody in the comments, like my sister Abby, Ryan, Mike. Appreciate you guys coming in and commenting, and hope anybody's watching this. Give your viewpoints, what you thought about the Oscar ceremony, I guess, and hopefully I give you some good insight from my vast knowledge in the Oscars. Hopefully that was somewhat interesting, giving my thoughts on this ceremony. Besides that, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking this video. And thank you to all my subscribers for supporting this channel. Couldn't do it without you. And appreciate all of you. And I hope you have a good day and a good rest of the weekend.